Hey, what's up, guys? It's Jeff here. Just got back from 3v3 last weekend. I hit up and locals taking this Sky Striker Runic deck. It's a little bit more saucy than the last striker list I posted. I'm going to go over all my matchups and how I finished, and I'm just going to go over the deck list first real quick. So first, I'll start with the Runic engine. Playing 3-tip, of course. This card, basically the engage for the Runic package. You can search for any Runic card or you can self summon a Runic monster. 3 Freezing Curse. This is kind of similar to Widow Anchor, so it gives you extra negation, but with the Fountain you can play it from your hand, as you can with all the Runic spells, so it's very impactful, and the Banish is pretty useful too. 3 Slumber. This you can compare to Eagle Booster in the Sky Striker deck, but it also works as a Kaina because it prevents attacking from happening. This is very clutch at holding off monsters that you can't kill immediately. 3 Destruction, something that the Sky Striker deck definitely lacked before, outside of Afterburner and Jamming Wave, is backer removal, and this is the perfect option because it can also double to search for the Fountain by going into the fusion monster if you need be. And then 3 Flashing Fire. This is going to be the last 3 for the Runic spells. This just destroys a special summon monster. Not that useful against tier, but if you time it right, it can be impactful. And then the only one of that I played was the Smithing Stone because it gives you the option to fusion, of course, bring out and search for the field spell, but more importantly, it helps you end the game when you're going for the deck out. Now, for my Fountain count, I play 2 Fountain. You could argue playing 3 because the games go for a while, but with the 1 fusion, the Fangs, you can add back the Fountain, so typically 2 is enough to get through the game and get them decked out, because that's the primary win condition. You're not really trying to deal damage with this deck, you're trying to deck them out over time. And it's actually something that I've been enjoying on Master Duel as well, so I figured why not take it into the TCG and see how I could do with it. So now to get into the Striker engine, that's it for the Runic engine. 3 Widow Anchor. This alongside the Freezing Curse is great because you can almost always negate whatever effects that your opponent's trying to do. 3 Shark Cannon. The reasoning for 3 of this right now is the tier limit matchup, and it's okay against Sprite too if you can bait out their Toad and then banish their Toad with this. And then it lets you link climb, so there is something in the extra deck that I have wanted to go into, but it hasn't came up yet, but Shark Cannon is great right now. For similar reasons why I played Bell and DD Crow, but you'll see later in this deck I'm not playing any hand traps. 1 Afterburner. I wanted to play Jamming Wave, but it just doesn't see enough use right now, so we just stick to the 1 Afterburner as a good tool to search off of Engage. 1 Multi-Roll. The multi-roll is great with all the Runic additions because you get all the extra cards, and just having the ability to reset the Sky Striker cards to keep grinding your opponent out. It's just amazing. You can't really complain about multi-roll. Going second is a little bit weaker in regular Sky Strikers, but in this deck it is a lot stronger because you have more Runic cards to break the board. Alright, and then for your pseudo Rays, because this is actually a Rayless deck, I decided to go without Raye because of all the problems with tier limit Shizu, that they can play Bestials and they can shuffle back your Raye. It just hasn't been resolving that much for me, so instead I tried to just focus on getting the spells into the graveyard and then have them deal with my Fountain or my Kagari effect. So we just played, for Raye copies, we played Hornet Drone, Engage, which is a pseudo Raye, pseudo any copy of the Sky Striker engine. And it is great in this deck because it's very easy to get to 3 spells and then just use the Engage as a draw engine with your Kagari. And then the most important part to this deck is there's 3 linkage now. So because of the addition of linkage, you can play something like this without Raye and still always have an ability to go into one of your Sky Striker ace monsters. Prior to that, you'd have to run the 3 copies of Raye due to consistency. But with this amount and the Runic draw engine, it's perfect. You do not miss Raye at all. The effect is not needed because you're usually able to protect the Link monster with the effect negation, or if they do destroy it, you have another copy in your hand from all the Runic drawing that you've acquired. So that's it for the Striker engine. Now we have some supporting cards. Okay, so I still have only been able to obtain 1 messenger apiece. I would definitely recommend trying at least 2. But this card is very strong with the Sky Striker engine as well as the Runic engine, because the Runic engine can protect it with the Hugin effect if they use any backer removal, and it just allows you to control the game similar to you would with Mystic Mine, and just slow it down to your pace, and then just go for the deck out. To sub the second messenger apiece, I played 1 day apiece. Not quite as good because it gives your opponent a card, but it does help deck them out, and it guarantees that you see the next turn, so it can help you dig into this if you don't have it. As a concession for, you'll see I had a trouble with Flundery's matchup, I added a Terraforming and a Zombie World. The reasoning simply is just to shut off the Flu deck and then continue to deck them out, but the Flu matchup is still a big issue for this deck because as you use Runic cards, you're banishing the Flu cards face up, which will give them advantage later on, but the Terraforming is a good addition too because you can search the Runic spell if need be. I was playing Card Destruction and a 3rd copy of Triple Tactic Talents, but I forego those for these 2 cards. And they were alright, but they didn't really come in handy on Wednesday night when I played. Now for the tier limit matchup, we're trying to dig into these 3 copies of Dimensional Fissure. If you go 1st or 2nd and you're able to see this against tier limit, and you can break down the board with the Sky Striker cards, it's pretty much game over from there. There's not much they can do to come back from that. It's a fantastic floodgate. It's D-shifter on legs. It doesn't go away, so it forces them to answer this problem. And if they do game 2 or game 3, you can use the Hugin to protect it, so it's even more impactful. And then just for some extension, you have Call By just to make sure your plays go through, or to stop a key graveyard effect if they use something on you. 2 talents similar to Call By. Sometimes a little bit harder to resolve, but in combination with the Widow Anchors and the Freezing Curses, it's very powerful to just simply look at your opponent's hand, take the out away that they have for your board, or just draw 2 cards. I rarely see myself taking their monsters, but it's also an option. And then the last card, Pot of Desires. Normally I don't like playing this in a Sky Striker deck, but because the Sky Striker engine is so minuscule and we're not trying to draw Raye, we're more so just trying to function with the Runic cards. This card is great because it puts a spell in the grave, it gets you 2 cards, and it just clears out some of the extra Runic cards you might have. So this card, 10 out of 10 in this deck. Now let's get into the side deck. Side deck is 3 Lava Golem. This is to outboards, and it helps in time because it can deal damage, because typically, just like Master Duel, this deck is only going to be a best of 1 if your opponent doesn't concede fast enough, because you'll have complete control, but it still takes a few turns for you to go through the Runic cycle to deck them out. So that's why we're playing Lava Golem. It's good. It serves dual purpose. Spooky Dogwood. This is similar to Lava Golem, another card to put in when you're going into Game 3 and you don't have enough time to deck them out, but you can simply control the game and hopefully gain some life points if they summon into this. And then for the stun aspect, 2 Majesty's Feed. This is when you don't want to rely on the Sky Striker engine. You can just simply alternate to a Runic control deck. And it's pretty good because most people won't have effect negation left in their deck unless they're just trying to stop your Kagari. So it's pretty high impact after game 1. And then another concession to help the Flunderies matchup, and even the Sprite matchup it would be okay against. There can only be 1. I had some more backer removal in my deck prior to this, but on Wednesday night I updated it and I put 3 There Can Only Be 1. And I think that this is a pretty strong floodgate because unlike Zombie World, it doesn't take the field spell slot, so I can get this up and still maintain what I'm doing. And then to protect that, we have one Dark Bribe. I like Dark Bribe because it doesn't cost any life points, unlike Solemn Judgment. And it also helps if they play Prosperity, because if you use it on something like Prosperity or something else, they can't activate Prosperity for the rest of the turn, so it has like dual usage. There is one Solemn Judgment. I want to play more of these, but again, because time is such a huge issue, it's very risky, so I would typically only put this in game 2, and then game 3 maybe substitute for Dark Bribe. And then one Curse Seal, similar to the last two, but this only negates spell cards, whereas those can negate spell and trap. So this can't be used on Evenly Match, which is something that I'm having a problem with. But I would say that this is really solid because if you hit one of their side deck spell cards, like Lightning Storm or Twin Twisters, and they play multiple copies, they can't really out your cards anymore, basically. And you have all the spell cards in your deck. The whole main deck is spell cards. And then the last card that I'm testing is Eradicator Virus. The reason for this, if they're a spell or trap heavy deck, you can go into Zeke given the right circumstances, and then you can boost Zeke to 2500 and use this to end the game. Alright, now for the extra deck. Now this is going to be an odd Sky Striker extra deck because typically you want to have a lot of links, but the way that this deck plays is you want to have balance of the links and the runic fusion. So, and you're not attacking much, so we went down on the Hayate and went down to 1 because typically you only will be able to attack once, and that's going to be the first turn if you go second. Now if you go first, you may not even attack at all that entire game until the very end of the game, but yeah, one Hayate is all I've been needing to just get the engage in the grave and then go into Kagari. One kinda similar, you only ever need one in it, and it is really useful because it can slow the game down. And then it also has the ability to gain life if that ever comes up. One Zeke, you typically want to play 2 of this in a control Sky Striker, but this version you can get away with 1 because the Widow Anchors aren't typically there to take your opponent's monsters, they're just there to negate their effects, and you don't have as many copies of Raye, so this just won't be coming up as often as it used to. It pains me to say it, but only 2 Shizuku. Again, there's not as many Sky Striker cards, so once you get to the engage, and then you search usually multi-roll with the second one, or like Afterburner, depending what your hand is, that's all you need. You really just don't need to focus on Shizuku. But of course, I still had to play 3 Kagari. I could see cutting it to 2 to just have room for more extra deck options, but it is very impactful as the game goes on to just be able to add back Widow Anchor, Engage, and keep applying pressure, especially because Engage just becomes a draw engine for the deck. That's all for the Sky Striker links, pretty thin. Now to get to the generic links, one Nightmare Phoenix, just in case they're playing any floodgates that we can't deal with. We play a Phoenix and it's really good with Widow Anchor. Similar to Unicorn, it just costs a little bit more to go into Unicorn, but it can out monsters on the board too, so these are both very useful. And then at the top of the lineup, instead of Access Code, I went with Zeraboros. Now, he is very easy to make for what he requires, but hard to make because you're not playing any Sky Striker Ace monsters like Raye or Rose, so you have to make it off of just Widow Anchor and Shark Cannon, plus whatever you'll have in the extra monster zone at the time. So it's very hard to make. I have not had a chance to make it yet. But in theory, because of the runic cards and Pot of Desires banishing so many cards, it should come out at around 8,000 to 9,000 attack points whenever you summon it. So if you have your battle phase for that turn, it's just a 1-card OTK. And it has some applications with Shark Cannon as well, because you can Shark Cannon one of your opponent's cards and summon it to one of the arrows it points to and trigger its effect, which is very strong in the late game. So that's all for Link monsters. Now on to fusions. We played 2 Hugin the Wings because it protects your back row most importantly, and it doesn't activate, so you can chain it if you have the field spell up and they play, say, Lightning Storm. But it's mostly just to tutor the field spell out in the early game. Sometimes you just don't draw it, the field spell or tip, and then you need to use this to search it. It is a bit risky because if they hand trap you there, it could just end your turn depending on what the rest of your hand is. But that's where the talents and the call by comes in to help if they do that. And then we're playing one Jiri of the Fangs. This is the one that I mentioned before that can add the field spell back. So as the game goes on, it becomes more useful. In the early game, it really just kind of sits there, but it does have the other effect where if it's sent to the grave, or not sent to the, if it's destroyed, it can destroy a card on their field. So because of that, it also has some more utility. And then the last card would be the other wings. The reason for this one, it stops the targeting spells like Cosmic Cyclone, and then it also has the ability to gain life at the end of the turn, similar to Kaina. So if you ever get in that kind of situation, you have like a few different tools to win the game. Pretty important. Alright, now I'm just going to run through the matchups. So at the 3v3, I played with two other friends. They were playing Exosister and Tearlament. And the first round I went against, guess what, Flunderies. It went pretty poorly, so I got through my game as quick as I could, and my hands just weren't very strong to deal with Flunderies, so I helped my friend playing Tier. We end up all losing as a team that round, so that was fine. The second round I went against another Tearlament player. He opened pretty strong, but I was able to use my talent plus Desires and a few other spell cards in combination to actually out his board and take control with Messenger Apiece. So that's what I'm saying with the Messenger Apiece. If you're able to get through what negations and effects they put up, it puts you back in control pretty much. Round 3 I played against another Tier. This time I had went first and my hands just weren't as strong as they needed to be, which ended up resulting in a loss. And then the second game I tried to go for the Majesty Fiend route, and he was able to get a Scream up and go into Baguska and out it because I wasn't aware that Baguska couldn't be targeted while in attack mode. So then round 4 we play another team. We play against but that round 3 we won as a team because even though I lost fast, so I was able to help my friend who was playing Tearlament win his game. So overall we won that round. So that's the best part about the team. The team 3v3. Round 4, we played against another Tearlament. Go figure, just like all the Tearlaments. But this round, we just like drew exceptionally well, defissure, engage. Very, very decisive win on my part, and I was able to help my friend. So we make it to top 4 after standings. Top 4, I faced the same team that we had just faced the round 4. So he already kind of knew what I was on, and he had a better idea of how to play against it. So he beat me game 1. Game 2, I was able to get to the Pot of Desires, and the Pot of Desires drew me into the Messenger Apiece and Dimensional Fissure. So at that point, I had full control of the game just off of those 2 singular cards. He ended up having to concede that one, and then game 3 is when there wasn't much time left, and the combination of these 2 cards was just too much for him to handle. Like, there wasn't really anything he did wrong. It's just like these cards are just too strong with how the time rules work. So we win there as a team, not just me. And then in the finals, we go again against the same team we faced the first round. So I kind of just conceded to the flu deck. I drew my hands and I tried to play, and I knew I was going to lose. So I decided to help my friend who was playing Tearlament. We ended up winning that game, but on the other side, my other friend, he was playing Exosisters, and he wasn't able to pull out the victory that time. So that was a loss for us because it was 2 out of 3. But it was a lot of fun. We each ended up taking home a box of Power of the Elements, so it was a great time. And then just real quick, the locals report from Wednesday. Round 1, I played against Despia. This was just a straight-up Master Duel because we both play these decks on Master Duel, and it was really interesting to see them in the TCG. Game 1, he had Brandon and lost and just like got way too much advantage off that, and I didn't deal with it fast enough. I had the option to use one of the Runic cards on it earlier in the game, and I just decided to fuse with it when if I would have held it, I would have had a better chance. Game 2, I take complete control, and I'm able to use Messenger Apiece and deck him out. But then game 3 came and there's very little time. He went into Masquerade Dragon to try to clutch it in time, and I had the Widow Anchor plus Hayate to negate it and win the game. Round 2, similar, I play Tier Despia. This is a little bit better than regular Despia because he also has the tier cards. So that was a huge problem for me in the first game. I kind of just got snowballed by all the Mill 5s and the Shizus. But game 2, I was able to go first, draw a pretty strong hand, set up my full combo and draw into about 6 cards in hand and have 5 cards on the field with Fountain. I played through evenly match, and then I was able to reestablish my board again. He ends up getting decked out that game. He probably could have spent a little bit less time. Same thing. So game 3, we're in a rush, and he's trying to go for the last-ditch effort. He mills his Volcanic Shell, so that's 500. And then he goes in the Masquerade Dragon. Again, I have to play through that. I have the double Widow Anchor, luckily, which allows me to play through that. And then I'm able to linkage with Tip into Hayate and get the out for his field spell when he uses it to shuffle back to try to stop my Hayate from attacking. So that put his 1100 to my 1500. I did just slightly more damage. So again, as you see, a recurring theme. If this deck goes into time, it's more in this deck's advantage than the opponent, which is good because of how the time rules work, I guess. And then round 3, we play against Despia Adventure. I guess everyone at Locals is on Despia tonight. So the first game, he didn't really open well. He just passed, and I took full advantage of that. I was able to set up everything with the Fountain and just having multiple spells and getting my Sky Striker engine rolling. So game 2, he draws a lot stronger and makes a board, but I put in Lava Golem, and I just control the game with Lava Golem and start using the Runic cards to take away his back row removal slowly but surely. And then we get the Messenger of Peace up, and again, the Messenger of Peace performed phenomenally. And then at some point he had 2 Lava Golems on his field, and he just decided to concede because he had no way to get rid of the Lava Golems. Round 4, I really didn't even try round 4. I played against Pendulum, and I knew he had Spellcaster Village in his deck somewhere, and I didn't feel like facing that, and he just had most of the good hands at that point, so I just gave up knowing that I would still make it into the finals. Top 8, I went against Exo Sisters. Game 1 was a real grind. He didn't open D-Shifter, but I had Engage, Pot of Desires, and all the Runic cards going, so it was pretty much, I was in control the whole time, but his engine was still able to fight through what I was doing, which was pretty surprising actually. But in the end, I was just able to just deck him out exactly with the Smithing Stone. I was able to get him down to 0 cards. And then unfortunately game 2 only had about 5 minutes, so after he ran through his first turn combo, as I'm playing through his board, he had to Solemn Judgment me. And then time was called shortly after, so because he used Solemn Judgment and then the time was called, he was down 4,000 life points. He couldn't really do much about that. So that was the overall report. We got a couple OTS packs from the tournament and a box of Power of the Elements, so that was good. Didn't do too bad this week. Ended up getting 8 wins and 4 losses with this deck, so I would like to get that up to about 10 wins and 2 losses, or 11 wins and 1 loss, but again, it being a deck for Master Duel, it's kind of difficult in the TCG. But thanks for viewing, guys. Tune in, stay tuned. Have a good day.